What's going on, guys? So I was thinking the other day, I had a friend ask me this and they were mentioning to me like, I don't even know where to start. I don't know what to do. I have no idea. Like, I don't even know what I'm good at. I generally like don't know what is out there, what exists. Like, how do I make money? And I was thinking, I was like, it's a very interesting question because I ask myself that all the time. I'm constantly thinking about like, what's the next thing that I'm gonna do? What's the next thing that I'm gonna build? And I told them, I was like, you know what? What's interesting is that a lot of times we don't think we know what we want to do, right? We don't actually think we know what we want to do. We don't know what we're actually good at. And we believe that there isn't really much out there to do. But the funny thing is that there are millions of options to make money. There are millions of things that you can do that you are probably really good at, and you could probably make money on it, yet you just don't recognize it, right? Or you choose not to do it. And so here's the thing. A lot of these ideas probably aren't going to make you millions of dollars, but they could probably make you a very good living, right? You might actually be happy with what you're doing and, live a really comfortable life, right? So before you kind of recognize that, like, you have to first figure out like, okay, well, how much money do I want to make? Like, what do I actually want my life to look at? Like, right? Do I want to live a very comfortable life? Do I want to make a life where I'm just barely getting by? I'm okay with that. Do I want to live a life where I have, a nice nest egg sitting there? Do I want to give my kids private school versus public school versus homeschool? Like, you get to really figure out what that looks like. And once you identify what that is, like once you actually visualize, like, okay, I have a really good idea of what I believe I want my life to look like. If you actually know what that looks like, it's pretty easy then to figure out what you should do. There's this term called reverse engineering. Reverse engineering is a term that I first heard probably back, I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 years ago. And the first person that I ever heard of this from was from a guy named Tai Lopez. You guys have probably heard of Tai Lopez before. Tai Lopez was or is one of the best online marketers that ever existed. Tai Lopez has made some mistakes, and if you guys know anything about Tai Lopez, he's currently going, through a couple lawsuits at the SEC and things like that. So don't do what Tai Lopez did when it comes to that. But, I mentioned Tai Lopez because regardless of what he did, regardless of how much money he made, which he made a ton of money from what I know, from what I've heard and from what I've read, he's a very, very smart guy. I take things with a grain of salt when it comes to anybody that I speak to, whether it's a very smart guy, very successful person, somebody who's maybe not successful, not so smart, because a lot of times all it takes is one golden nugget to really push you the direction that you need to go. And so this is part of the reason why I drop these daily videos, is because I know it will go a long way in terms of you actually utilize the nugget that I drop in here. And so the thing that I want you guys to look at is, if there's a multitude of things that you can get from this video, right? A is like, do you have a clear vision of what kind of life you actually want to live? 2, do you know how to reverse engineer that to actually make it happen? So now let me give you an example. I want to make $120,000 per year. Well, how do you do that? Well, I got to make $10,000 per month. Okay, how do I reverse engineer that even further? I got to make about $2,500 a week, right? That will get me there, which would basically mean $500 per day if I work 5 days a week. How do I make $500 per day, 5 days a week for a whole year? $500 a day doesn't sound that crazy if you really think about it, right? You're not trying to make $1 million a year. You're just trying to make $120K a year. That's $500 a day, 5 days a week. How do you do that, right? You can sell a service to 5 people for $100 a person. You can sell a service for $500 to 1 person a day. It's pretty simple, right? And you can break that down in so many different ways. You can sell a product for $50. Let's say you sell 20 of those. That's $1,000, assuming you have cost, right, for that product. Let's say it's a 50% margin. You made $500 in profit a day. I'm simplifying this, but it's because it really is that simple, right? And that's what reverse engineering is. Like, that's one of the biggest things that I want you guys to take from this video is, how can you reverse engineer the result that you want to create? Whether it is creating abundance for your family, whether it's, getting a PhD degree, whether it is writing 20 books over the next 10 years, whether it is impacting 1 million people over the course of your lifetime, whether that is through donating money, whether that's through raising money, whether that is through going out to third world countries and building homes for them, or like whatever the case is. Like, there's so many different options when it comes to that. A lot of times, like, we get stuck. Like, we genuinely get stuck and don't know what's the next step to take and which direction to take it. And usually that happens because we don't know what the vision is, right? We don't actually know what the end goal is. We don't know what are the steps that it takes to get there. When we get stuck right there, we get to, take a step back. You get to pause. You get to just stop and be like, okay, if I pause right here, pause right now, but I know what my long-term goal is. Do I know what my long-term goal is, right? You get to, figure that part out. These are the 3 key things, guys. Is like, what is the vision? What is the goal? What is the end goal? Big picture. That's the thing you get to look at, and you can phrase that in so many different ways, right? When you have a clear understanding of what that is, you can now take step 2. And step 2 is, how can I reverse engineer this goal? What are the steps that I need to take to actually make it happen? And so this step 2 is just as crucial as step number 1, right? Which is having this visual of what you want. Step Step 3 is actually taking the action towards those goals. A lot of times people get stuck at step 3, but some people never even get to step 1. Some people end up going their entire lives and have no idea what their vision was for their life. If you can actually get to step 3, you're way further along than most people. But even at step 3, more people get stuck. There's even more people that get stuck there and never actually take the leap. They never take the risk. They never do the steps to actually accomplish that goal. And usually the reason why that ends up happening is because once you're at step 3, once you have the vision, you have the goal, and then you reverse engineer how you're gonna get there, you have hundreds of steps to actually make that happen, right? Let's think about building a house. What would be the first step in building a house based on what I just said? The first step would be like, okay, let me get a visual, maybe get an architect, maybe get a designer, or maybe let me get, nowadays with AI or a friend or somebody or yourself and design what this house looks like. Let me get the big picture. Okay, great. I know what it looks like now, right? Let's assuming you figure that out. What would be reverse engineering it, right? Okay, step 1 is the way you would reverse engineer it would be obviously you get the visual of what the house is, then you would have to maybe hire an architect or hire a designer to actually design the blueprint. You would then get a blueprint, then you have to go look for an architect, you have to look for construction people. What is it actually going to cost? Get different quotes for them, and then figure out, okay, I know what it's going to cost. I know who I'm going to go with. Am I going with a general contractor? Am I hiring individual people for each parts of the house? I hire a plumber, hire a painter, hire these different pieces, a carpenter, etc. Or do I just go with a general contractor, right? And so you start going reverse and reverse and reverse. The next step would be getting quotes from everybody, right? What would be the cheapest option? Do I go with the general contractor route? That's probably more expensive because they have the connects and that's how they make their money. But it's probably the easiest because you don't have to go out and do the legwork. Let's say you decide with either option. Now you got to look at the budget. Okay, well, now I need money. How am I going to put this together? How am I going to pay for these people? Oh man, I need $200,000 to build a $500,000 home. I don't know the actual numbers, and it's all going to be dependent on the area that you live in. And I'm also not a contractor. I'm also not a real estate investor. I don't do anything when it comes to real estate. I'm involved in real estate at a very small scale, and I have an idea. But again, just use this as an example. Then it would have to be like, okay, how am I going to raise $200,000? That's now maybe step 4, step 5, but within each of these steps, on the third step, right? So step 1 being vision, step 2, reverse engineering, step 3, all these different steps. And within each of all these steps, you got another 5 to 10 steps, right? So now we go from step 1, step 2, step 3, and when step 3, you got 10 steps and then 10 micro steps with each 10 steps. Now you got 100 things to do, right? I hope that made sense, right? You got 100 things to do now, and now you're like, you know what? I gotta contact 100 people to raise this money. How am I gonna figure out how to make this money? I'm gonna call bankers. I'm gonna call my friends who do mortgages. I'm gonna call friends that maybe I know that flip properties. I'm gonna call friends that maybe I know do wholesaling when it comes to real estate. I'm gonna ChatGPT it. I'm gonna Google it. I'm gonna YouTube it. I just threw out like 7 things right now on how to research on how to find the money. Think about that. Now think about doing that for every single little thing. It's actually pretty easy, but people get overwhelmed, right? We start getting overwhelmed to the point where like, man, this is so much information. This is so many things to do. I don't know if I can do this, right? And you guys have no idea how many people stop right there. Like you've gotten so close and so much further than other people, but yet you still stop right there. You get to recognize that if you can become somebody who's really good at creating the vision of whatever that thing is you want to be and reverse engineer that and then create the micro steps with each of those things, you can literally accomplish anything that you want. You can literally create any outcome that you want if you learn to reverse engineer anything that you want. And so you might ask yourselves like, well, how do I even learn this? I might be oversimplifying it. I may make it sound like it's super simple because it actually is pretty simple, but I've been practicing this for years. I've been practicing this for almost a decade, and you can actually practice how to reverse engineer anything in anything. The simplest of simplest things that you can think of, right? Let's say you want to clean your home, right? You're like, man, my house is a mess. I have no idea how I'm going to clean this. I don't know how long it's going to take me. Do I need help? Should I hire somebody? Like, what do I do? If we think about it, cleaning your home is probably something that probably everybody knows how to do. You probably sweep, you probably mop, you probably vacuum, you probably clean the bathroom, you probably wash the dishes, you probably, clean the windows, you probably do your bed, you probably do the laundry. Like, if you think about that, you can literally reverse engineer how to clean your house. Okay, there's 10 different sections. We get to vacuum, we get to do the dishes, we get to clean the bathrooms, we get to mop, we get to sweep, we get to clean the windows. Okay, and within each of those 7 different things, or how many that was, there's individual steps. I need to make sure I have dish soap. I need to make sure I have a scrubber to wash the dishes. I need to make sure once I rinse it, where am I going to put the dishes? Okay, they're going to go here. Okay, I want to accomplish this in 8 hours. How do I make sure I accomplish cleaning my entire house in 8 hours? Because people are going to come over. Okay, I got 8 hours. If I give an hour to each section, can I finish each section in an hour? If I make the math, blah, blah, blah. Notice how like you can break down everything, right? You can literally break down anything that you want and reverse it to figure out the solution. And that's where so so many people stall. That's where so many people fail. And here's the funny thing. We do this all the time. We reverse engineer things all the time, but we reverse engineer things for the things that we want. The things that we really, really want. The things that we don't think require a lot of work because we think they're fun. But in reality, you can do it anywhere, right? You're gonna go out with a friend that you know you need to be there at 8 p.m. What do? I gotta leave by 7 o'clock so I can get there on time. I gotta shower by 6 p.m. so that I'm ready by 7 o'clock. That means by 5 o'clock, I gotta be done with all my homework, or I gotta be done cleaning the house so that I can start getting ready by 6. That's reverse engineering. Where can you guys practice reverse engineering? If you can practice the craft and the skill set to reverse engineer, you can apply that within anything that you want. You know, when people start asking me like, Jaime, what do I do? I'm like, well, think about all the different things that you're good at. Think about all the things that you're good at, all the things that you would want to do, and reverse engineer at a macro level. Like, it doesn't have to be super specific. What's it gonna take? How much can you possibly make? How much energy is you're gonna have to put into it? How much time are you gonna have to put into it? Are you gonna have to hire people? Do you need capital? Like, you can look at all these things and then go down the list and seeing which one can you actually take action on the fastest to get the quickest results. Don't get stuck. Like, don't get caught up in analysis paralysis trying to figure out what to do next, because you will actually figure it out by doing the work. You will actually figure it out by reverse engineering. You will actually figure it out by doing the thing, not by thinking about it, not by sitting on it, not by writing on it. That will all help. But if you just do that and do that only, you're only gonna get so far ahead. If there's anything that you guys can take from this video, is like, how can you reverse engineer your life in a way that will create the result and the outcome that you want? I've done this dozens and dozens and maybe 100+ times now in my lifetime when it comes to business, when it comes to personal things. And I can confidently say that 90% of the time, I figure out a solution and a path to get the result that I want. And so I just want you guys to know that you can literally create the exact same thing if you simply apply those steps. And so that's all I got for you guys today. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.